21-mile-wide door just turned the lights off on the modern world. On March 2nd, 2026, Iran officially closed the Strait of Hormuz. Oil surged past $100 a barrel within days. Iran's supreme leader declared that the lever of closing the strait must certainly continue to be used. 20% of all oil traded on Earth, roughly 20 million barrels every single day, moved through a navigable channel just 3 kilometers wide. When that channel closes, the modern world does not function.
The question being asked right now is the same question empires have been asking for 5,000 years. Who controls the doorway? To understand why that question never stops repeating, we need to go much further back than most people expect. The Strait of Hormuz sits at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, linking it to the Arabian Sea and the entire Indian Ocean trading system. At its narrowest point, 21 miles across, archaeological evidence suggests deliberate seafaring through these waters as far back as 2600 BCE. Sumerian merchants pushing boats south from the Tigris-Euphrates Delta toward trading partners in the Indus Valley. The copper-rich region of Magan, modern Oman, sat directly on the strait's southern shore. Indus-style seals have been found in the Gulf. Mesopotamian artifacts have turned up in western India. To be precise about what the evidence tells us, this is reasonable inference from archaeology, not documented naval strategy. But geography does not require documentation. Before any empire formally measured this passage, it was already doing what narrow passages always do, funneling commerce through a single point. The doorway existed before anyone decided to guard it. The first empire to treat the Strait of Hormuz not merely as a route to cross, but as a threshold to control, was Achaemenid Persia, a domain that stretched from the Aegean to the Indus. When Alexander the Great swept through Persia in the 320s BCE, his admiral Nearchus conducted a careful survey of the passage in 325 BCE, confirming its navigability and its value as a strategic link from the Indus River to Alexander's intended capital at Susa. When the Sassanid Persians inherited the Gulf centuries later, they extended its trade networks toward Southeast Asia and eventually China. Different century, same doorway. The state had learned to measure the sea, and whoever measured it taxed it. By the medieval period, the strait had generated something remarkable, a kingdom literally built on rent. The Kingdom of Hormuz, relocated to the stark but perfectly positioned Jarun Island in 1301 AD, after Mongol raids devastated the Persian coast, became one of the wealthiest trading hubs on Earth. Consider what Jarun Island actually was. No fresh water, summer temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius, and merchants forced to import even their drinking water. Marco Polo, passing through in the 13th century, wrote that the hot wind there could cook a person alive. Yet traders from Arabia, Persia, India, East Africa, China, and Venice all converged there. Because you could not reach the Persian Gulf without passing through Hormuz, and Hormuz required you to pay. Marco Polo recorded pearls, Arabian horses sold for 500 gold byzants apiece, silk, spice, and fine textiles flowing in every direction. The kingdom's wealth was not produced, it was extracted. Hormuz did not grow its own food or forge its own steel. It collected tariffs. Its entire economy was, in the most literal sense, a tax on geography. Rent collected on the world's most indispensable doorway. In 1507, Portuguese Admiral Afonso de Albuquerque sailed into Hormuz with cannons and an ultimatum. He seized the island and began constructing a fortress whose stone walls are still partially visible today. For the next 115 years, Portugal ran the strait as a commercial toll booth, backed by military force. They called their system the Cartaza. Ships required Portuguese-issued protection documents to pass. Non-compliant vessels were seized or sunk. That mechanism, extracting passage rent through threat of force, has never fundamentally changed. Only the paperwork has. In 1622, the system cracked. Safavid Shah Abbas I offered the English East India Company expanded trading rights in exchange for naval support to expel the Portuguese. It worked. 3 years later, Dutch and Portuguese forces fought a battle in the strait involving an estimated 17,000 cannon shots. One contemporary account called it the mouths of hell opening. Trade resumed the next morning. British influence deepened through Gulf protectorates across the following centuries. In 1951, when Iran nationalized its oil industry, Britain's reflex was immediate: blockade the strait. Control the doorway, control the power. Same map, new weapons. The discovery of oil at Masjid-e-Suleiman in western Iran in 1908 transformed the Strait of Hormuz from a luxury trade corridor into a global energy artery. By the late 20th century, roughly 20% of the entire world's oil supply moved through that 3-kilometer channel. In 2024, 84% of it was bound for Asian markets: Japan, South Korea, India, and China. There is a sharp irony in that last number. China is simultaneously Iran's largest oil customer and the economy most damaged by an Iranian closure. The weapon Iran holds over the world is also aimed directly at its own most important patron. The first modern stress test came in the 1980s tanker war. During the Iran-Iraq War, both sides attacked shipping. The strait stayed technically open, but became a war zone. In the decades that followed, Iran repeatedly threatened closure as leverage. Every threat moved global energy markets. The world flinched, negotiations resumed, and the door stayed open. Then, in late February 2026, U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear and military facilities triggered the scenario energy economists had long modeled, but hoped would never arrive. On March 2, 2026, the door closed. Oil hit $104 a barrel. One final detail deserves a moment before we close. The name Hormuz derives from Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity of Zoroastrianism, ancient Persia's founding religion. The most strategically contested choke point on Earth carries the name of a Persian god. 2,500 years of history compressed into a single word. Every era of this story follows the same sequence. Prosperity concentrates around the doorway. The doorway becomes leverage. Leverage invites conflict. Conflict demands militarization. Militarization raises the stakes. And the cycle begins again, more dangerous than before. Sumerian traders didn't know they were building a choke point. The Achaemenids measured it. The Kingdom of Hormuz monetized it. The Portuguese and British militarized it. The oil age electrified it and plugged the entire modern economy in. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a place. It is the world's recurring lesson in what happens when prosperity depends on one doorway.